Yep. And our friend Jamie was right. That was disgusting. But I'd like you to play Stevie Wonder's You Haven't Done Nothing. It's probably one of the best politically amazing songs. He released it the day before Richard Nixon resigned from being president. Breakfast. Leftovers. So let's see. Let's make this a live chat. There's one person there. So it's going to be interesting when they do an investigation or someone honestly investigates. Why was that guy up on? He was less than a football field away from Donnie. He had an AR-15. Right? One velocity of that bullet. It is traveling 9 football fields in a second. That's a lot of muzzle velocity. Right? It's a little bullet, but in like all the mass shootings, especially ones in school, especially the one, Sandy in New Jersey, little kids, between the age of 6 and 10, I think 20 of them got shot point blank with AR-15. And it's hard, the kids couldn't go anywhere. Boom, 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 boom. And it did a lot of damage. It basically, bullet goes inside, like a 9mm, that bullet goes right through you, right? Even if it hits bone or organs, right? An AR bullet goes inside of you and starts tumbling up, eating you up like a lawnmower on the inside. No, even if Johnny just got a little zip of the bullet, it should have taken his head out, but it didn't. I wonder why. And the guy who shot those 4 or 5 bullets, winged Donnie, killed that one guy, the hero, and more seriously injured 2 others, and about 10 minutes before this happened, people out there in the audience were like getting police and go, "Hey, what's that guy doing up on the roof?" And Dottie has it in him to, go like this. So maybe he had the little bloody thing in his hand and did this, squeezed it, right? Went underneath the podium, stuck it in a secret little compartment, and kind of did this, and so he's all covered in blood. Wearing the old nice white shirt, doing that, and but they're whisking him away, and up and goes, "Bye!" Right, and this was all being covered by networks, meaning he has tons of these things. Do they cover him? No. This one they did. They were expecting him to come out with, whose vice president was going to be. But they did that on Monday on Truth Social. Yep, right. Pro wrestling. Yep. Now, the question is, Joe Biden had a response immediately. Like everybody had a response immediately. I was listening to jazz on my public radio station, and within 5 minutes of the shooting, they had 3 hours of radio all queued up. All these people to interview And we're really getting nothing about the kid, right? Except he's 20 years old, and he belonged to a gun club. Everyone who knew him said that he was depressed and bullied his whole life. Well, you ever see that movie with Frank Sinatra? I think it's called The Manchurian Candidate. And what's truly interesting is that all his kids are there, except Ivanka, the one who ran the White House when he was president. Right? Her and Jared aren't there. They're on their secret little island, underground. So what do you think, 31? They still be there. No. Don't believe a word I say. This show is just for entertaining. This is like Mickey Mouse. When I opened a few minutes of it so yesterday and spat the food out on my plate, and our friend Jay from Ireland, he basically said, "Oh, that's disgusting." Well, it is. What we're living through is disgusting, right? Then I spat on my plate again. It's disgusting. I might vomit, I just ate this. Ugh. Just kind of ate this. Yummy. Might throw up. Might vomit right here, live on YouTube. You see it right here, live on. But I have my lights. Yeah, that's America. And JV, whatever his name is, the guy who went to Yale Law School. He writes a book that he's trailer trash. Trailer trash don't go. I wonder if he was part of Bones. I wonder if Vance is part of Bones. I wonder if he's, relative to Bill Clinton. And there was some real trailer trash there. Woo. When you talk to anybody about Vance, from him being in the military, him being at Yale, him being a multi-zillionaire, which he made the money just like, what's his name? Who's the guy who had to Alita Express, that guy? I mean, that guy came from, from the dregs of Long Island, and then he becomes a billionaire, like within 2 years. How did that happen? Even if it was, let's say, Donald Trump. Nepotism. Thank you. Go watch They Live, by, what's his name? Firebreak 09. And accelerated time, forward and backward. Yep. I called it the Big Splat about 5 years ago. I had a good 60 or 70 shows about it. John Carpenter, that's your boy, had the longest fight scene in cinema. That black guy and our hero, Ruddy Piper, were fighting it out because, Ruddy wanted the black guy to put on the sunglasses, right? And the black guy, no, meaning, he got to take the red pill or the green pill, right? And that's where we are right now. And we're all being forced to to watch it right in front of us, right? Because if you read your Bible, everything's a sacrifice, a bloody sacrifice. They live, yep. Nice sunglasses like that. And so the best part of that scene of the black guy and Ruddy Piper having the longest fight in cinematographic history is that those guys from South Park took frame by frame and animated it. Uh-oh. Frame by frame of cripple fight, of Timmy and Kenny fighting, or Billy, or it was another Y. Ron, because we like you. Mousc. Mickey Biden, Mickey Biden, Mickey Biden, Mickey Biden. Mousc. Now, doesn't Mickey Biden really look like a clone? I mean, he's not. And Joe Biden was always a clone. I mean, he was not a good speaker. He had a stutter. He constantly ripped off other people's stuff. Now, James Joyce, he said he was, he was the best, plagiarizer he could. And he would just take lines of things, cut them out of the book or out of the newspaper and glue them to his notebook and then write stuff, right? That's kind of what I do, but I kind of do it more in my Akashic record up here, right? So the real deal of all this stream of consciousness, that's me, baby. Someone once, a buddy of mine, I know a lot of people in publishing, well, not so much. And pretty much everyone I know is dead, right? Because I was a kid, they were all older. When I was 16, they were all in their 30s. So now I'm in my mid 70s, and so they're dead. And Allen Ginsberg, dead, Eddie Warhol, dead, Dali, dead, So, you guys looking at the dogs. Anyway, so I just dropped into my friends. They went on a little vacation. I'm looking at making sure the dogs are okay. The cats are okay. Ate some leftovers. Went online. I have nothing. I live in the woods, and I think I woke up this morning and it was 58 degrees. And here, I mean, up, just 20 or so miles towards town, it's 89. So I live on top of a mountain. I'm surrounded by 4 mountains, and I'm down in the holler. So nobody wanted that because all of the rain went down there, and it was, I cut all the trees out. I kind of leveled it off a bit. I mean, it's already pretty level. I mean, it was doing this. The pitch was great, water going downhill. And I put French drains everywhere, so all the water would leave. And so that was 20 years ago. And so now it's a green paradise. And all of the, around my property, I left the big tulip poplars. And because they have so much sun, they're like, my lightning rods, lightning hits those things at the top. Not the whole tree, doesn't explode, just YouTube censoring my message. Really? Well, I guess you're going to have to put in another syntax. But yeah, so we got a war in Ukraine, a war in Israel, and the Mideast over there. We got wars in Africa, Asia. Van says, we got to get out of Ukraine because our real enemy is China. No, China is a walking dead man, right? Whatever vitality it had, it's gone. Xi has killed everybody who was any kind of, so there's nobody with any kind of ideas whatsoever in China. Same with Russia. Anybody in his right mind. I mean, if I, out in the middle of the woods, could see that what was going to happen in Ukraine, I was telling my friends, Russia's going to invade. What are you talking about? Oh, they just put 100,000 people on the board. What did they do that before? No, they're going to invade. And it's a jump call, right? You know, Donald was supposed to. No, he wasn't. No, 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 no. I mean, that guy was up there in AR-15. Like I said, that bullet travels, 6 football fields in a second. And if he get tipped, it would have ripped half his brain out. No, no, sorry, no. I don't even think the bullet hit him. I think he just kind of had a little packet of blood, and he went like this, squeezed it, went underneath the thing, stuck it under there in the secret little compartment, and then those guys kind of got on top of him and dragged him over to the SUV, and he right where the American flag was. He puts his hand up and goes, "Fight, fight!" I mean, that's worth $1 billion worth of advertising. This changes timelines. Yep, we are. Yep. But we've been in skating timelines, please, since Jesus. Optics. Mm-hmm. Because JoJo and Donnie both work for the Hidden Hand. I love the second Captain America movie. When he's like wakes up and runs down Times Square and Nick Fury stopped him and basically says, "Hey, sorry, buddy, you were frozen for 70 years, and here you are in 2000 and whatever it was." And so he's working for Shield, right? And he was working for Shield. Captain America had a shield, right? Mm-hmm. So, Tony Stark's dad was, anyway, thought it was a wrestling trick, but cultural damage. Yeah, well, the damage, man. The United States is so damaged. Trauma is the biggest, right? So everyone in America is suffering PTSD. I mean, there isn't a family that hasn't been traumatized. Period. There isn't. I mean, going all the way back to Christopher Columbus. Him killing 6 million indigenous people who saved his butt. In less than 10 years. That right there is a dharmic and karmic debt to, and then the Pope comes out with his bull saying, "Oh, Europeans, you can go, and go kill anybody you want, and take their stuff, as long as they're not white or Christian. If they're Christian and black, you can still kill them, because they're only, 2/3." I mean, if you need a Kleenex. Nothing. Let's see. Do. They won't let me play that Stevie Wonder song. I want to get paid. So this is from Dark Journalist, back January 21st, 2023.
Someone so clearly isn't presidential material.
Yes.
It just looks like a money laundering operation.
Oh, it's really true. Well, the other thing about her, they want a woman in there, and they don't have a really good field of women in the Democratic Party. So, they're trying to see what can we work with, who's been loyal. And, with all the they've been trying to do a lot of things to pump up her profile. I've noticed the Gavin Newsom thing. He's, of course, the guy who said he was going to call martial law against his own citizens. Masonic duties into the Theosophical Society, and brought forward so much influence on FDR that we're going to see a whole occult puzzle with FDR. But by the time we get to 1945, he booted out of the vice presidency. He was going to be there and he was going to be President X. But instead, we got Truman, who would drop the bomb. And this is something that it's pretty clear Wallace was not going to do. So these groups behind the scenes had to move this in just right. And there's going to be a lot that plays out in the first 6 months of this year that'll give us some of those answers. Let's take it back in time. Today's January 20th, 2023. What was going on January 20th of 1941? Some 82 years ago. It was the official inauguration of FDR and Henry Wallace. And both of these men were very, very deep. Roosevelt, including not only the Masons and the Oddfellows, which is a very interesting kind of spin-off of the Masons and unusual for a lot of reasons. Very heavy emphasis on youth. But also, when we look at Henry Wallace, we are looking at the X piece coming in, a direct major theosophist, but somebody who was such a core member that they were part of the Halcyon Temple, which is the theosophical group that broke away from the Besant Theosophical Society and really started their own thing in California. This is an important group. I highlighted them in an episode. It's been a couple of years now. But the whole story of the
Halcyon group became the Bohemian Grove. I mean, that's at least the thing that people get to see. Anyway, only one of you left. Put my glasses on. I'm a handkerchief man myself. Well, basically, my dad was a colonel in the Air Force, right? He was dressed to the T's. He had sergeants, making his clothes, shining his shoes. He wanted, because when he grew up, he was an Italian boy. Now, his father was a brain surgeon, barber, and J.P. Morgan brought him over from Rome to be his barber, to take care of his nose. And so my grandfather was the barber to many important men and many, vaudevillians and Broadway guys. And back in the day, before films went to California, they were done in New York, right? So he had a house out in Long Island in a place called Freeport, where all the band leaders, because it was a port, there's only two ports on Long Island. One's called Glencoe, one's the other Freeport. And Freeport is like, you come in and there's the Great South Bay there, and it's protected. And that's where the baymen did clamming and oysters and scallops and fish. Fish would come in with the tide, and and then the tide would go out. They'd be there. They'd be big fish. And anyway, so it was when I was a boy, that still existed. We used to go down to Doroni's fish market. That was right there. Cherry stone clams. And my dad was a football hero, right? And so he was world famous, Death in the Afternoon. New York Times. So when he was in college, college ball was more, there was no real professional football. I mean, there were a bunch of yokels trying to do that, but the real thing that the mob was pushing was college football. So my father went to 6 different colleges, to play football. And he got a degree in history, but he likes to read. But he played football, and then he was going to get a big job. Then depression happened, so he ended up, because he had a lot of creds. Because all through high school, he was, amazing, and so all the rich kids in his high school, because he was Italian, he looked like Valentino. All the girls would, "Ooh, he's so cute." So my mom went for him. So and he had a big schwanz, right? And so he would go out with the rich guys and drink and party and go to all their stuff. And he wanted to be like them. He didn't have a nickel, right? He was always just going with them. So he would take whatever clothes that they had last year, and that was how he would wear those. And he'd always look great. So He's on depression comes. He goes and to the army and says, "Hey, I'll join up. I like uniforms." They gave him a test and said, "Boy, you're really smart. You make a great officer, but we have no money. Nothing's happening. But soon something's going to happen, and we want you for something else. Here, take these tests." I took the test, and they said, "Well, you can't fly an airplane. That's obvious, but you do have this skill set to organize wings and men and all of this new technology. You seem to be able to understand it and make decisions about it, and that's the guy we need." So that's how my dad became a bird colonel, like within 5 years, right? Which is tough to do. He worked for General Curtis LeMay and Mr. McNamara, and those guys used to come to our house for dinner, along with Werner von Braun. It's like, so I saw this stuff up close, at 6 years old. I mean, I saw a nuclear, ground burst nuclear explosion in Nevada, in 1956, So my worldview is way different, right? And, Cardinal Cushing was pushing me to be a rocket scientist for the Pope. Most of the guys in NASA, girls and guys, are like my sister. Went to all Catholic schools, were nuns or priests, really smart. So anyway, when I was a little kid and I used to go with my dad, I was dressed up better than anybody. I had this red suit, and from the time I was 6, my dad would always take me to that place where everyone gets their prep school outfit, right next to Wall Street. It'll pop into my mind. But anyway, it's kind of where Occupy was. That park, Party Park, was where they had a building, and then guys I went to high school, Eddie Merrill, Ricky Lynch, built the Merrill Lynch building, and they put Brooks Brothers. That's the guys. So I would get a new suit every year and a new pair of pants and a couple of shirts and handkerchiefs, right? So I was following that path really seriously and all the time I kept having all of these kind of mentors who were showing me behind the curtain what's going on. And because it wasn't just, Cardinal Cushing that wanted me to be this way. It was these other guys who wanted me to be this. And so from 6 until, I guess, when I hit the draft board, 18, 6 to 18, I was like Gumby. I was being, formed. And so I was constantly put into really interesting situations. And that's kind of what I wanted, because I was getting, instead of being stuck onto one thing and just doing that for the rest of my life and like, oh, that's what I do. And I saw people who did that and they didn't seem too happy, like my dad. And I was enjoying the ride, and I have been enjoying the ride ever since, So when I went off to the seminary, and so, I went to a place called Canterbury in New Milford, Connecticut, which is like the Yale of, the Catholic Church hierarchy, So if you're going to be a priest, you wear cassock. If you're going to be a Catholic, business emperor, because, Holy Roman Empire, you wore a 3-piece suit from Brooks Brothers, right? I had one of those. And then if you were going to be a military boy, you got a uniform, right? And that was it, right? So I was going to be a priest, so I wore a cassock. So I didn't have to worry about a tie and I had this black tea dress, right? I could be naked underneath. And half those guys were, knacking off, They'd be sitting up there in a big chair, and while the other guys saying the sermon, and they'd be facing 300 boys, and they'd just be knocking off right there in front of them. And that's how. So that's where I really, 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 really saw the inequities of culture and class and society and what was really going on. The hidden hand, the whole thing. I saw it right there. They actually had slaves there. indentured servants. They were all white, but they were slaves. They couldn't get out of there. And so are you. You got a job. You got a mortgage. You got a payment on your car, your insurance. Any of that's you are a slave. That's why I live on $400 a month. I have nothing. No one can take anything because I have nothing. Right? Good luck. And once I carry all of my tax forms and everything, my medical record, everything in a bag. And when I would go see somebody, I just lay it all out in front of them. They're looking at it. And I remember this one lady said, "Well, this test that your doctor had, and we want $27,000." I said, "Good luck." And she goes, "You don't know the seriousness of this." I said, "Good luck." She said, "Well, you won't have a credit rating." I said, "I don't care. I don't have one. I got rid of that. Right? I have no credit cards. I have nothing." And then I showed her you only made $7,000 for the last 10 years. Well, 10 years. I said, "Yep." And she goes, "That's $27,000 below poverty level up for one person, right?" And I said, "Yep." And so she's kind of like shaking her head. She goes, "Well," she gets on the phone. She's talking to somebody, right? Then get facts. She said, "Just sign this, sign this, sign this, and it's all good." And I said, "What's that mean?" And she goes, "Well, it says that you're here and you're doing that and you're living here and you're." And I said, "But that's all no. I don't live in this state. I don't do this. I don't do this. It's all lying." And then it says right here, if you're lying, that's well, it doesn't matter because you have nothing. What are they gonna? But we'll get paid. And I said, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lie for you." And they just, and then a woman just started to cry, and she said, But if you don't, I'll lose my insurance, and my son is sick." And then she goes, and 18 years ago, I graduated with a master's in social work, and I wanted to help people. I end up here in HR. I can't take it. Ah! And that's pretty much society as we know it, right? Everyone's whining away, right? But we live in heaven. This is Garden of Eden, where I live, the deep green. I'm surrounded by stuff so this is, July, whatever it is, 16th, I think. Well, normally this time it's still raining from spring and because of the rainforest. Well, it rained and rained and rained from March all the way to June 5th, and then stopped. That was it. I haven't had any rain since June 5th. Right now, where I live, all the water just kind of goes there. So if it gets dry, all my plants just soak it up, right? So where I am, everything is super green, right? And cool because when that little thing of taking sunlight and carbon dioxide and turning to oxygen, actually, it's a heat exchange. So it's absorbing heat. So when I wake up in the morning, it's like 52 degrees, in about an hour or two when the sun is directly. So I cut out this big part of the forest to dry out this land so the mosquitoes would go away. And they have, So from about 11:30 till about 4, the sun is like right up there. And that is like when it's like microwaving everything. So that whole thing, but all of my plants love it. My grass is getting a little brown, but it's still green. It's greener than all of the grass that's on the hills that Maymead and Bear and all those corporate guys, because they have big cow, right? So all they grow is soybeans and grass and tobacco and Christmas trees. That's it, right? And it's all GMO, right? Well, GMO is great. It'll take glyphosate, but it also makes those plants very thirsty, and also it likes sunlight up to a point. And then it's designed to die, like the corn that they have for feed, right? It grows like 12 feet high. It's green. It's beautiful. Looks great. And if you go in the field and take one of those thing corn husks and open it up, freaking corn is bloody red. Not a good look at it, and it's blackish, bloody red. And then they just leave it there until it gets barbecued, and then it turns brown and crisp, and then they run it over with a machine, and it chops up everything, not just the corn, but the husks, everything, leaves, you name it, and they turn that into cow feed, and that's what you're eating when you're having your cheeseburger. So when I was in the seminary, I saw all this unbelievable, and I rebelled. I said, no, I organized all those white people to go on strike. I was just listening to the union guy talk to I think that's the first time the president of the AFL-CIO was talking to, the Republicans. And he was right on with, most of what he was saying. And of course, he's like taking it up the butt and getting the envelope and, but he was enumerating way better than Mr. Vermont. What's his name? The real goal pole. So one of the things I did, because I learned from my mother being passive aggressive, and to be truly passive aggressive, you really have to do stuff that's just so wow that people don't even, blowing my nose on my shirt, passive aggressive, right? Wearing the same clothes for like 15 weeks, passive aggressive. See, my body, because I only eat like stuff that's growing in not even in my garden, just in the woods. I don't have BO. I don't have smell. My farts, it's, all, my skin, look at my skin, like that's pretty good. And I'm out in the sun and I am not barbecued like all the people around here, right? Because when it's really hot, I kind of come into a place like this or go deep into the woods under one of my in one of my temples, my prayer temples. So what else can I say? 38 minutes. So yesterday the battery died. How much juice we got? Oh, we got about an hour. And I kind of, all the stories I didn't finish, right? And I had to watch it again because I forgot what stories I was telling. But anyway, right now we're in the middle of one, and I want you guys to remember this because, there's this thing called the hula hoop effect, or people also know it as the who's a black guy about time travel, South Africa, the Mandela effect, right? Because in reality, they killed him, right? But in another reality, he became president of South Africa, right? And then all the black people became as corrupt and terrible as the white people were. And who knew? They said there have been, who knew? They said there have been, I forgot where it was, probably Harvard or Stanford or someplace like that, real sick place, where they put an ad in the newspaper, neighborhood newspaper, and say, little study here at college, come on and volunteer. Well, and not volunteer, but we'll pay you, right? They get there and said, okay, so we're going to look at authority, and everyone get up there and count off 1 to 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All the ones go over there, put those hats on. You are the prison guard. All you twos, put the cardboard thing around your chest that has a number on it. Number 2, that's it, right? That's what you are. You're number 2, a piece of crap, right? And then they just let them go at it. And oh, yes, no, the old crone, it's like I'm known as Al Bob, right? Well, how did you get that name? What's your parents didn't name you Al Bob? No, they didn't. I lived with many different indigenous people. So, like in Africa and in Australia, they had no idea what their in South America, they had no owls, but they called me Al. Right? and Bob, right? Baba, like in Vedic, which means like grandpa or God, right? But not the number one God, just one of the guys who works for him, right? The lucky bastard, right? So Al Bob is you're basically respected for your ability to think about things and act, like owls are the most feared bird in the sky. Like the eagle is like looking around for the owl, right? Owls are because they make no noise, and then you're dead. Not injured, not like the little wing down your ear, but you're dead. I mean, for the guy to hit Donnie just on his ear, get that much blood, I would have ripped it off and left a hole there and his brain's drooling out. So he didn't get hit at all, right? I'd like to see what the doctor said. Somebody go interview the doctors, because oh yes, he just had a little wing, yeah, so we just kind of sewed it up, yeah, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Well, when you see anyone who is there and they tell you whatever they tell you, you can tell whether they're lying or not. It's built into all humans. Now it's tried to get washed out of us by going to public schools, and they're not getting rid of public schools anytime soon because it basically, you know, brain dusts the population along with a diet and all the rest. And I'm a good example of, so I was kind of around that brain dusting, but I was constantly always being brought into this club or working with this mentor or going off doing this with my dad. Oh, no, it's just okay. No. They're everywhere, right? And again, they represent. So anyone wants to read my writings, and I send them out to people and they go, "Oh, it's too hard to read." Yes, it's a shamanic document. It's supposed to tweak you up a little bit. Guess you don't want that. But anybody who wants that and also has Gmail, right? Email me, right? Or just email me anyway, and I think I can send it to you. But as I don't blow my nose, 1960, what was it, 5, I was taking a course at the seminary, computer programming, right? IBM, we had IBM. We don't, not only did we have a real IBM computer, we also had a line to what was being known as a DARPANet, right? And so we were being taught, as a freshman in high school, how to program this, right? And we were. That's why I read Turing's 2 books, Gollum and the other one. And we saw what it was. Also, when I was 8, I was at Sperry Rand, the young scientist, and the guy who wrote 2001, forget his name. I always forget his name, but he was a pretty tall guy. He's probably in his 40s when I saw him. And we were in this big building. That was one computer. And it made so they had a little microphone. You could talk to each other, just like the kind of earmuffs and microphone that they have in helicopters. Those things are so loud. You put these on, and the microphone cancels all the other noise except your voice. Anyway, so we're there and we're listening to this guy, and they're making a movie of this guy talking about what's it going to be in the year 2000, right? I don't think he wrote 2001 yet, but he probably was thinking about it or writing it. I don't know when he wrote 2001, but this was 1964-ish, 65-ish. Anyway, so we're there, a group of us, there's me, Harvey Kleiman, whose dad worked there, how we got into Young Scientists. Vincent Salvatore, Vincent Tufo, Debbie Soul, and Kim Romano, 2 girls whose dads were like Tony Soprano, were mobsters. Right? These girls, and they were only children, daughters, right? And so they were like sisters, but they 2 different families, and so both their fathers had this, Chinese guy or Japanese guy come and teach them, martial arts. So they didn't have to worry. At 6 they could kill people. And so those girls, Lisa Stiles, whose daddy was like some kind of political thing in the town thingamajig. Who else? Two other girls, Karen and but Debbie, Kim, and Lisa were like tight, and we were all tight. We were the crew, and so anyway, we went to this thing, and they're showing us all about the computers and of this and that. And they showed us a transistor, ooh, and this is solid state. Here's the tube. Here are these 10 tubes. This little black thing does the same thing that these 10 tubes do. Right? It doesn't use a ton of electricity. This little thing hardly any. Anyway, so we're listening to all of this, and then this guy is telling us. He goes, and so and so they're making a documentary on him in the year 2000. This is 1964, 65. I mean, just after Jack got whacked. And so, and we're starting to go into Vietnam in a big way, but we'd already been there 20 years. We've been paying for the French, et cetera, et cetera. And so, anyway, who are we talking about? Me. I'm the storyteller. I'm telling a story. Old crone, and who did the crone say is discussing? No, yesterday's show in the morning, I only did it for maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, right? And Jamie was watching it, right? And I was at this diner because they have Wi-Fi, and I was talking about something politically that was disgusting, and so I had a mouthful of food, and I just spat it out on the plate. And I opened today's show, with that me spitting it on the plate, and then showing you what I've been eating. That's pretty disgusting. Basically using that as the metaphor that is, how can I describe our situation sociologically, environmentally, politically, economically, militaristically, the spitting out of the chewed up meat, all the dead people in the strip and in Ukraine and Africa and here in America and everywhere else. That was that metaphor. And Jamie picked up on it when he said, that's disgusting, because that's exactly what's going on in our little human sphere, is that we are being disgusting. We are not being our better selves. We're being our worst self, right? We're supposed to be our best self. We're supposed to have conscious intent, supposed to. So I go to 3 different churches, and they read the Bible, and they don't get squat out of it. All they do is they're like seraphis, they're lawyers of scribes, right? And they, King James only talks about the Jews had 3 books, they had the Torah, the Tablet, and the right? And I stayed in Brooklyn in a Hasidic Lubavitcher, most conservative place ever, and my landlord was the head rabbi of not just that neck of the woods. He was like the top 3 of all Judaism. He liked me, right? Because he would come to get my $300 a month, and I had a loft that was 17,000 square foot. It was like an aircraft carrier, and everybody who needed a place to stay, they had, because it was, why I got this thing was that it was full of these boxes of synthetic sweater sleeves, not the sweaters, the sleeves, right? And nobody wanted that shit. So it was like, something that's like, 250 feet long, 80 feet wide, 30 feet high, 8 zillion boxes full of things. And each one was in a very nice plastic bag. And my sweetie pie, Beth B., who is a Lincoln Center dancer, ballerina, she, she was really, her legs were strong. She could crush you like a walnut. this little girl, and but her legs would sweat, and then if she wasn't like really using them, they get really cold, and she get cramps. And then one day I was showing her this, and she said, "Huh." She just, for some reason, stuck them on her legs. Said, "These are great." And so she took a couple of boxes with her and gave it to her girlfriends there in Lincoln Center, and the rest is history, right? She sold most of those. I think she's retired on that one. Anyway, and it cleared out the side. So I had all these boxes with these sleeves in, and that when people needed some place to stay, they could make their own little house out of these boxes. Bosquat, the guy with Samo, he stayed there. He was my electrical helper. Anyway, old lady, grown man, and you, son up, your existence, there must a zillion of repercussions and stories. You can't believe the stuff that was like, forget Harry Potter, forget any of that stuff, because it was just what was going on. It was no like, so I was I basically was sent by lady at the Lincoln Center. She was head of the theater department at Hofstra. Elaine, no, not Elaine. Vivian, no, it'll pop into my mind. But anyway, I did this play at the Columbian, broadcasting competition of theater and art, and we did the play JB, which is the story of Job, right? And I played the devil, right? And guys who were in my prep school, they were about. The only reason we joined the theater department, I actually kind of enjoyed it. The other guys did it because we would go to other colleges, other schools where there were girls, right? Anyway, so I produced it, directed it, played the devil, made the sets, made everything, and then we did production of it at Keene State College, right? And so they had, your basic auditorium with a stage on it, right? And so what I did was that stage was a gigantic stage. I mean, because you could put a symphony on it, right? So instead of putting the 80 or so people who were going to be sitting in the auditorium that was for 1,000 people, I put chairs, and so we did a black box theater because I didn't want to make real scenery. I had these platforms. God and me were up here, Job and everybody else down below, and everyone walking up and down. And I had what do you call it? There's Bart. Yeah, there's Bart. Bart's coming in. Bart is a kind of red dead Christian, right? He wrote this. I bought some property of a guy at a nuclear waste dump, and hey, Bart. The dogs are attacking Bart. Well, I'm going to say goodbye. I'll come back later. I don't want to break the fourth wall.